Hey guys, welcome to Tall Tales with Taco Bell. Happy Thanksgiving, wherever you may be. I hope that you all had an awesome holiday, and we've got Christmas coming up. Already set up the tree. I'm in my R-Tag Hawaiian shirt, feeling good. And I tell you what, it's going to be fun tonight. We've got Admiral Benny Suggs, who was one of the most incredible fighter pilots out there, and next to Jerry Leakey. But I tell you what, this is going to be fun. He's going to tell some great stories. We're just going to sit there and shoot the bull, tell tall sea tales with an admiral. So without further ado, Benny, I'd like to bring you on the show and say hello, sir. How are you?
Doing great, and good morning, Taco, and all your viewers and all your family and friends on this very, very special time of the year. It was
Yeah.
definitely a great Thanksgiving with, honestly, almost too much family, turkey, and sports. I loved it.
Yeah, we had all the family. We had like 30 people at the house, but
Oh my!
TV did not come on. So we just
Oh,
relaxed and had a great time. Yeah.
that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Exactly. So first of all, I got to thank my good dear friend Parker Perkins.
Oh
Perfect
yeah.
Parker hooked us up, and you guys are out there in Raleigh, North Carolina,
Hmm.
um, part of the Porsche Club, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what a great guy.
Well, Parker, thank you so much for the introduction and going through some of your history. It's pretty incredible. When did you get winged? What year was it that you went through flight school?
Yeah. Well, number one, again, thank you for having me on, especially this time of year, so we can thank a lot of folks that have meant so much to us and make all this opportunity that you and I've shared over the years to serve our country honorably, and say thank you to them. But growing up, my boyhood dream was all about being a naval aviator to fly,
What
fire,
sparked
and
that?
attack. That was it. I came from a family that military service was very important.
Mhm.
My dad he was a Private Ryan, kind of a soldier. He and his two older brothers, when they were old enough, they volunteered to go in the army and fight in Europe. And unfortunately, he lost his two older brothers, and the one that was the closest to him and his best friend was Ralph Suggs, and so he was at Normandy, D-Day, and then later on, he was killed in the hedgerows of St. Louis, France, July 26, 1944. And
Oh, wow.
my granddad had fought in World War One, so serving our country, which is part of our family culture and expectation. But I wanted to be a Navy, not Air Force, Navy pilot. And I just figured that, boy, if you could operate a high performance aircraft off an aircraft carrier, you had to be pretty special.
Yeah,
And
but wait, what sparked that? I mean, a movie? What
well,
got you
my
going
my
on?
my granddad purchased this huge series of books about World War II,
Uh-huh.
a lot of photography, and a lot of that had to do with naval aviation in the Pacific. And
Right.
I used to spend Sunday afternoon just pouring through those volumes, and then a lot of times he would sit there and kind of explain to me about some of the history. He is my all time hero.
Yeah.
So anyway, so to serve our country in the military was, well, kind of expected actually, and uh, and of course, I grew up on my granddad's farm, dirt road, outhouse, the whole bit. And then every month, the bookmobile would come from the Columbus County Library, and I would probably check out the same books over and over and over. So the books were part of three categories, actually: aviation, sports cars, and motorcycles. And
Okay.
and those three categories have been an important part of my journey all those years since. So when I came to NC State on a scholarship, my goal was to earn the degree and hopefully get into flight training. I had never flown an airplane, not a crop duster commercial. I mean, nothing. I couldn't fly a paper airplane, but I had this crazy dream. And
Right.
uh, and so I go to NC State, and my advisor for all 4 years was Dr. Slater D. Newman, an all-time hero, Air Force veteran, and my suite mates at NC State thought I was crazy to do that. Want to do it. The Vietnam War was raging, and they had no desire at all to serve in the military. But and I discussed this with Dr. Newman, and he said, you got to do it. He said, it'd be a shame one day you're 90 some years old, you're on a front porch rocking, and you hear a jet fly over, and you look up and you go, I wonder. So he said, you'll never have to ask that question. You got to follow your dreams. And he said, and if it works out, great, you may find your calling. And if it doesn't, at least you'll know. But he said the worst thing than failing would be to never try. So he was a tremendous resource for me and pumped me up all the time. And so first time I got on an airplane was, September 22nd, 1969. I went to Raleigh-Durham Airport and flew to Pensacola, Florida via Atlanta. I was afraid to look out the window. I'm sure I left my fingerprints in those armrests. And I looked out the window and said, what the hell have I done? Are you kidding? So I started AOCS, and the next time I got on an airplane, it was the teeny weeny, the T-34. And,
was it the turbo or it was the B model?
Yeah.
B model.
The Navy version of the Beechcraft. So,
so
I got in, I remember this, it was in February of 70 or January, and it was cold. I was wearing my leather flight jacket. I'm sure I was hyperventilating, and I had in the back seat, I had Lieutenant Commander Behringer, who was incredible. And very well, you're really fortunate to have a lot of really key people along very important parts of your life that can help steer you, help motivate you, help you. And I was just so lucky because I probably got the best instructor at Softly Field. He never yelled, patient. He was fearless because he had to fly with me. And so I remember this was a significant emotional event. So we taxi out, and of course, as you remember, the first 2 or 3 flights are all demos. Basically, you're not even graded, and then you start, of course, accumulating a flight grade average on flight number, I think it was 4. And so I'm taxiing out. He said, "Now just keep that yellow line between your knees, and no problem. We can clear it for taxi, and we'll go out to the duty runway, and we'll take off." Okay, great. And I'm hyperventilating. I'm sure my heart beats around 130 or whatever, scared to death. And so we taxi out, and boy, I nailed that yellow line on the taxiway. And then he comes over to the ICS and he says, "Hey, Suggs, did you grow up on a farm?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I can tell." Of course, I grew up on my granddad's farm, so driving tractors and bulldozers and stuff with my feet for brakes and steerage was something that I was fairly familiar with. So we got out I'll never forget it. We got out to the whole short, and he calls for takeoff. We're cleared for takeoff, and we go out and we position and hold. He said, "Okay, now do your run-ups, do all your checks." And I thought he was supposed to do that, but I did it because we did it in the simulators, you recall. And controls are free and easy, and we were ready to go. I said, "Okay, we're ready to go." He said, "Well, let's go. Release the brakes. Let's go." I said, "You want me to take it off?" He said, "Yeah, you got us here." He said, "Look over your shoulder. You see those 3 or 4 airplanes? They're all pissed at you because you're taking so damn much time. Let's go." So I'll never forget this. I released the brakes because of the torque. I almost go off the side of the runway, and he kept whispering in my ear, right rudder, right rudder. And eventually we got to rotation speed, and of course the airplane did the rest. So all of a sudden, we rotate, and I looked around. I went, "Are you kidding? We just took this thing off." Yeah. And I'm looking around. I see Pensacola Beach, the bay. I went, "Oh my God, look at this!" And he goes,
"Gear up."
He goes, "Gear up." Oh yeah, that's right. Gear up, gear up. And then I forgot the flap speed, 100, whatever it was. Flaps up. Okay, flaps up. And then he says, "Okay, now trim the airplane. Look at that needle ball. Trim it up." I trimmed it up, and he said, "See, there's nothing to it."
What a great guy.
He was a great guy, but I'll tell you, I was like a drunken sailor going down that runway. I can guarantee you. I didn't impress anybody, but we made it.
And that was in the Bravo, which didn't have as much power as the turbo weenie that I flew was the
No, no,
ET6.
not at all. Not at
And
all. But
and you know what's funny about that? My very first flight with a Navy guy, Elvis Arrowwood, was my on wing,
I
and
love
we
it.
go up and we're flying around. I hear this bump, bump, bump. I hear something banging on the airplane, and I'm looking around like, what the hell is that? And he goes, "Do you hear that?" I go, "Yeah." "What is that?" And he goes, "That's the ball trying to get back into the cockpit." I, I was so far off
I
the ball
hadn't heard that.
way out here. You know, we're flying
You
in
were flying
in a
sideways.
skid. Yeah. And he goes, "That's the ball trying to
Yeah,
get back into the cockpit, Taco." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, yeah. Sorry,
But
sir."
Lieutenant Commander Behringer was absolutely super, and he rarely demoed anything. He just talked me through it and made me do it. And so I
Yeah.
got good grades from him. And as you recall, he had several off check flights, including your safe for solo check. And the grades I got from those instructors were consistently pretty good as well. And so when we finished everything and everybody was put in this selection process, including Naval Academy graduates, ROTC, and those of us from the AOC option, we had 44 people to select what category. And I was really fortunate, a lot having to do with Lieutenant Commander Behringer's help and support and belief and trust in me. But I finished number 2. So 6 of us got jets. And so I went to Meridian, Mississippi, started basic jet training.
Nice. You know what they told us? For those that don't know, when you select at a primary from flight school, you fly the T-34, and then you go on to intermediates. And if you go jet pipeline, you would do the T2 at the time, and then
Mm-hmm.
the A4. But they told us it was based off of 3 things. It was based off your grades, needs of the Marine Corps, and what you want.
Right. I'm surprised the needs of the Marine Corps weren't first.
Yeah. So they gave us the your middle finger for what you wanted, but yeah, it worked out really well. Andy Dingy was number 1. He wanted jets. He put jet, jet, jet. He got jets. Number 2 guy wanted helicopters. Dude, that guy just wanted to fly Cobras and swack people.
Oh,
So he
good
put
for him.
helo, helo, helo. He's number 2. They gave him helos. I'm number 3.
Sure.
I put prop jet helo. So had the guy ahead of me put anything else, I would have ended up helicopters, which
Sure.
my life would be totally different today.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's one of the R tag that I'm wearing,
Mm-hmm.
trying to help all these helicopter guys out to get to the airlines because
Yeah.
they just didn't have the
Well,
opportunity.
performance counts, and we just shared a couple of examples.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you go to Meridian, you're flying the T2, right?
Right.
Yeah. And how was that?
Oh,
That thing was a beast.
yeah, it was terrific. And again, I had great instructors along the way. And on my first solo flight, and of course, that's a big deal. I had some friends and some family that came out to watch me launch and come back and recover. And on that flight, I had a hydraulic failure and had to come back and trap. The first time I ever trapped, and that was my solo flight. But everything worked out well, and I did well in Meridian. And I was one of the pilots or student pilots that went through the process where you went to different bases for different phases of flight training. So
Really?
I finished Meridian basic and advanced, and then had to go back to Pensacola for guns and my first opportunity at carrier landings in VT4.
What did you guys land? What did you guys land on back then?
USS Lexington.
Lexington. Okay, good.
Yeah, wood deck, the whole bit.
Yeah.
I
hit the Lex.
Yeah, and then from Pensacola on to Kingsville, Texas, and I flew the A4 and got my wings in Kingsville, Texas in May of 71. And my mom, who'd never flown before, and my sister, who had never flown and was a student at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, flew to Corpus Christi and came down to Kingsville for my winging ceremony. And that's when I got the Rolex.
We got to show the watches. This is going to come into play later, guys. So this is the Coke GMT2 that I got from my dad. Let's see yours.
Yeah, it's a Submariner that my mom gave me.
I can do this.
There you go.
There we go, Benny. You know
Yep.
what? Here, I'll do this. How about that? Boom.
Oh, yeah, that's even better. Yeah. Yeah, it's only 53 years old, and unlike me, it looks pretty good.
And that's a story we're going to get to because that's
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah, it
So
is.
so you get your wings, you hit the boat, which by the way, I got a joyride in the back of an A4 with VT-21. Navy guy named Shattuck, Commander
Yeah.
Shattuck, hooked me up with he was
Yeah.
LSO.
Yeah. My squadron was VT-21 in Kingsville.
Was it? Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I was at Corpus, and that was my prop appreciation ride. So after that, I decided I don't want to fly jets. Hitting the boat, man. That you know what? Do you remember the first time you hit? I mean, the first time you're solo out there and you're coming around and you get into the pattern and they marshal you and
Yeah.
you're coming around and you hit the angle, you come downwind. What do you remember the feelings you had?
Yeah. Once again, I'm sure I was hyperventilating,
Yeah.
and I remember it was a pretty cold, pretty windy day. In fact, the Lex was actually at anchor in the Gulf, and I don't know, 20, 30 knots of wind over deck. And of course, we were well prepared. We'd done the FCLPs and we'd had lectures and all this good stuff. And you think you understand it fairly well, but when you go out there in the real world, it's a different animal. It's completely different. So I remember that again. That the whole experience was a significant emotional event. Our LSO was awesome, good guy, and obviously fearless to work with us, and especially me. But as I look back on it, it's almost a blur. And the trap didn't come as a real big surprise, although, you stop pretty quickly. But you kind of anticipate that. But what I didn't anticipate, in spite of all the lectures and briefings I'd received, was I go up to the catapult and I get my first cat shot. And I felt like my chest had collapsed. My knees were up in my stomach almost, for that catapult. And I went, oh my God, this is better than any state fair ride I've ever had. I loved it. I couldn't wait to trap and get back up to the cat fast enough. I loved it.
I got that sensation of speed right as we went over the deck.
There's no
And
doubt
like an
about it.
idiot, yeah, like an idiot, I look over my left shoulder, which I still have neck problems to this day. And I hit the deck. We caught the wire, and then I had whiplash so bad for about 2 weeks after that. I mean, I had to turn my like this, and
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards. But the catapult shot, you go from 0 to 150 knots in a heartbeat.
You do.
And the first thing was in that A4, we went off the deck and then we sank, and my stomach went up like this, and I thought, oh my God, cold cat shot. And I'm waiting to hear him say, eject. And he didn't say anything. So I'm just sitting there, I'm waiting, and he just kind of flew it out. I didn't realize you kind of sank into the relative wind until you caught it. And
you rotate too, and it gives you that sensation that maybe you did descend a little bit. But but one of the things I do remember was, and I don't think they really reinforced it, at least I didn't pay enough attention, but that first cat shot, I was just sitting there in the ejection seat, and when it fired, my head just slammed against the headrest, and I went, oh, I didn't anticipate that. So I learned real quick. The next time I put my head back as hard as I could.
Yeah.
So I became one and the same with that ejection seat, and it was fine. But that first time, I got my bell rung,
Literally.
Yeah, you never forget that first experience for sure. And you never forget any of the night landings. That's for sure.
I bet. That's something I did not experience. But where did you go? Where did you go from? You got your wings, and what aircraft did you end up getting the first go around?
My first fleet airplane was the A6 Intruder. That was my first choice, and I went to Attack Squadron 42 at Oceana to start replacement training. Did well, and so my first fleet squadron was Attack Squadron 75 off the USS Saratoga. Ooh. And it was an awesome experience. And again, I was so fortunate to have so many great people along my journey. And Skipper Rick France was my first fleet skipper, and he's one of the finest human beings I ever met. And it was kind of cool, Taco, because They were the last Air Wing 3 in Saratoga to come back from Vietnam. And all these guys had made at least one combat deployment. And you'll like this story. And I think all of them were at least 6 feet or more. And of course, I show up at 5'7", short guy. And of course, with the ejection seat, you can run it up and down just like you can with a car. And so for me, to see over the instrument panel in the gun sight, I had to run that seat all the way up. And so I remember we're on workups on USS Saratoga, and it's raining one day, naturally. And so I go off, complete our mission, whatever, and I come back and I trap. But I forgot to run the seat all the way down. So the seat's all the way up, and it's raining outside. So the operations officer in the squadron flew after me, and he was assigned that aircraft. And of course, until they get power and connected, you don't have any systems that work, including the seat controls for the ejection seat. So here's Dave Wagner. He's in this jet, and his head is like this above the windscreen, and it's raining cats and dogs.
Oh.
And anyway, so I'm in the ready room. I'm just Lieutenant JG. I'm just trying to survive, not embarrass the squadron, and stay alive, And so he comes in after that flight, and he is hot. I mean, he is hot. Damn it, Benny. We've told you when you get out of the airplane, run the seat down so we can close the canopy, especially if it's raining or weather bad. So he said, you better not do that again. and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of a crowd, and they all start laughing. And they came over and they said, hey, Benny, we've got a new call. Benny and the Jets, as you mentioned, was my call sign. But they say, hey, Benny, we got another call sign for you. I said, really? What's the new call sign?
Yeah.
And there's 5 or 6 of them standing around. They're all combat veterans. They're all over 6 feet. So Skipper France, not cracking a smile or anything, he said, well, you've earned a call sign, Benny the Snurf. I said, Benny the Snurf? What's a Snurf? He said, a Snurf is a guy built so low to the ground that when he farts, he blows sand in his shoes. So for the rest of that squadron tour and 2 deployments inside of that Ready 3, I was Benny the Snurf.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, as you know, there is no shortage of humor among naval aviators, and you better not show any discomfort, or you'll be stuck with something you don't want to be called for going on. Benny the Snurf.
Benny the Snurf, man. Embrace it. You might as well embrace it, right?
Oh, yeah. I thought it was hilarious, and they did too. But it was. I guess it was a term of endearment. But what a great squadron, great leadership. I learned a lot. I got to be a division officer, probably like you, and I started the LSO training pipeline. And on my second deployment, I got to be a team leader, working with Randy Letty, and learned a lot. And then from there, I went back to VA-42 as instructor, and I ran the carrier qualification phase.
Did you end up going over to Vietnam in the A6?
No, I joined the last carrier and air wing to come back from Vietnam.
Wow.
So I was going through flight training and all that as the war was winding down.
Did you ever get to meet Stephen Kuntz? He wrote Flight of the Intruder.
Obviously, I know of him, but I never had the opportunity to meet him. But a lot of friends have, and obviously, he's one of our heroes for sure, and an extremely talented writer. He told a great story.
That's why I was wondering. I read that book years ago. Parker and I would swap books all the time, but I read that book years ago, and I always wondered, how his writing style, and he puts you in the cockpit of an A6, which I found phenomenal. So anybody that's able to actually you can visualize sitting in the cockpit or the sensations that you have. So I was just wondering, an actual A6 guy, how that transitioned over. Did you think he did a pretty good job on that?
I thought he did an outstanding job. like you said, even someone who's not familiar with naval aviation would, I think, would see themselves in that scenario. Yeah, he's a very gifted guy for
Yeah,
sure.
there are a few writers out there. One of them, Bio Baranek. Do you happen to know Bio? He was a F-14 Rio. He
I don't
wrote
think so.
he wrote a couple books, and his style puts you in the back seat of an F-14 during dogfights, and for
Oh
him
yeah,
to be able to talk you through that puts you right there, which I loved.
yeah,
So you were teaching guys like me, a young guy, say, "Hey, idiot, here's what you do. We're the lead safe, or is it late safe? Lead safe. We're gonna go hit the boat. We're gonna do this. Blah blah
yeah,
blah blah blah. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
And
What a
you
tremendous
know,
experience for me to take a class of let's say maybe 6 to 8 young naval aviators who've just earned their wings, and now they've gone through the A6 replacement schedule, and they've done really well. Last thing remaining, and the toughest hurdle to clear would be those carrier landings, and the first opportunity for them to fly at night and land aboard a carrier at night. So to
wow.
take these young aviators and to be with them 5 or 6 nights a week, just about, you really get to know them really, really well, and they get to know you really well also. And I think the thing that I remember most and I appreciated so much was the bond and the trust that pilot has with his LSO, and
Hmm.
that LSO has that trust with that pilot, so that when a command or a call is made, so there's no question in that call, that response has got to be automatic and it's got to be good, so a safe landing can occur. So it was really cool to pick up a class, like I said, a 5 to 8 maybe students who are pretty apprehensive about that night carrier landing challenge, and to work with them 5 6 days, nights a week, and then to watch them go out and successfully complete their carrier qualifications for day and night landings, and to see that change that occurred in them over that 5 or 6 week period was really something that was significant and very satisfying for me. And I really, really enjoyed doing that. And just to see them progress and earn that trust and confidence in our teamwork and in themselves.
Hmm.
And I got to tell you, and to watch those egos almost explode at the end. Some of those CQ parties were some of the best I ever attended.
No, would they pair those guys up with senior BNs or
Yes, sometimes. Sometimes you did, especially if a young guy was maybe having a little bit of a hard time. Putting an experienced BN in there sometimes could be beneficial. But when we had enough BNs and young pilots, we like to pair them up together.
yeah,
But occasionally that happened. So, but when you get in the squadron, the skipper tries to build the best team possible, and he routinely would take that experience factor and try to average it out with the more experience with some of the less, so he has a really good crew, and they did a really good job of that.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think you would put an experienced guy in the right seat to help talk him through, some of the tricks of the trade per se, right?
Sure.
Because every aircraft has its own limitations, or it has a little, hey, when you're right about here, if you do this, that'll help you line up better or get in.
Yeah, and of course, that experience doesn't start, when you're in the groove. It starts out there, when you check in and you go through marshaling, you fly the approach, especially when you have to arc around, whatever, come in on the final bearing. There's a lot of airmanship that's involved, just getting in that position, to fly that last 15 to 17 seconds and effect a safe landing. So sometimes those people with that experience can be very helpful.
Yeah.
And boy, I tell you, I flew with some really outstanding people.
Well, talk us through what was the darkest adventure you ever had flying naval aviation?
Wow. Every night carrier landing.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Um, Well, I don't know about darkest, but probably one that I shared with you before, and it's part of the Rolex story. Was I was commanding officer of a TAC squadron. Here you go, TAC Squadron 55 Warhorses
Oh,
on the
other side.
USS. Yeah, on the USS Carl C. Yeah, VA 55, and I'm flying my airplane Warhorse 501, and Jim Metz is my bombardier navigator, a rambling wreck from Georgia Tech, and a really, really smart guy, a dynamite guy, great bombardier navigator. And so he was a pretty special guy. And so we taxi up to Cat 1, and we're in a NATO exercise, and we're just in the Mediterranean, just south of France. And it's just one of those stormy, ugly nights in the wintertime with the mistrals coming down from the French Alps and 50, 60 knots of wind, the deck's pitching, and just a wonderful evening, of course.
Yeah.
And so we go up to catapult number 1. Everything is normal. And as you know, you do a lot of preparation before you actually get in that airplane and go up to the cat, to include, you're computing, obviously, your gross weight, and you're verifying that with the catapult officer and the chit that you sign. But you also are computing your minimum int speed, what you need as a minimum to fly off the deck in case something happens. And usually launch with at least 10 to 15 knots excess. So you have plenty of flying speed when that catapult hits the water brake and you release from the shuttle, and now you're airborne. But so everything's normal. We do our run-ups. Everything's perfect. I reach over, and of course, I'm wearing that Rolex every day now for 14, 15 years probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, I reach over, get the cat grip, throttles up at 100%, take my thumb, turn the lights on to let the catapult officer know that we're ready to go. And so the catapult fires normally. So about halfway down the stroke, the bottom right-hand part of the launch bar that connects with a shuttle, which is the above deck part of the catapult system, separated, and that right engine now is like a vacuum cleaner, and it sucks up this piece of metal, and the right engine blows up. And of course, my mirror just turned red and orange, and the air boss is yelling, "Eject, eject, eject!" and the airplane yaws violently to the left, and I'll get back to that later if we want to tell the story. But anyway, so we go off the catapult number 1 on Carl C, and of course I got my left foot pushed through the firewall almost to try to straighten the jet, like you said, to keep that ball in the cockpit.
Right.
And, so anyway, it's gear up, stores off, gang bar off, and I'm hitting the dumps, and I'm settling into ground effect. No doubt about it. And I'm looking up in my rearview mirrors, and the lights from the flight deck are up in the top part of the mirror. So
and wait a minute, this is at night, and it's raining.
Yeah,
and you're right over the water. Can you see the water? Is there a horizon at all?
You see the glow. At that low, you see from the glow of the lights on the carrier deck, you can see some of the water. Yeah, wow. Especially, and we're down there in ground effect, so we're down there, less than 50 feet probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm right at minimum end speed. I'm right at 22 units angle of attack, and my VSI is right on 0. And so we're hanging on. We're right there on the ragged edge. And of course, I'm dumping out of the wings and out of the fuel as fast as we can. And then, now the air boss has stopped yelling, "Eject, eject, eject," and so everything's quiet. But now we slowly start climbing. I watch the VSI indicator start coming up a little bit. I'm right there again at 22 units, and I've cleaned off the airplane. We've isolated the engines. We're dumping all the fuel as fast as we can, and now we're starting to climb. So we go up above, and of course they call for emergency pull forward for all the rest of the jets, so they can bring us in when we're ready to minimize whatever time it takes. And anyway, so I had a wingman come up and check and said, it looks like the fire's out. but your right engine bay door is blown off, and
Wow.
there's you can see liquid stuff, whatever coming out of the engine, but so the fire was out, but now we're flying on single engine,
Yeah.
and so we're able
How does she handle single engine?
to like a big fat dump truck that's
Yeah.
underpowered, grossly underpowered. So we dump down to 3,600 pounds, and we come back. Obviously, we've already declared an emergency, and we land single engine on the USS Coral Sea. And they stopped us right there, chocked us, got out, went down to maintenance control, and the air wing commander's waiting on me. And at first, he tried to be a little stern and goes, why the hell didn't you eject? The right side of your airplane was gone. The engine exploded. They're yelling, eject, eject. You're on fire. Why didn't you eject? You should have. We could have lost you and your BN. And I said, true. But I said, it's wintertime and it's wet and it's cold out there. And I hate paperwork. And then he said, hey, great job, but don't you ever do that again.
I hope, dear Lord, they gave you an air medal for saving that aircraft.
Well, I was the Airland Pro of the Week the next week, and I didn't have any additional paperwork, so I thought that was enough recognition. That was cool.
Yeah, but what was it like going around? I mean, you're hearing eject over the headset. Is your BN saying, well, or do you have it? Are you okay? Are we all right? Is he say anything next to you, or is he kind of self?
He's kind of quiet, but I'm talking. I'm like, VSI angle of attack, VSI angle of attack. Altimeter. Watching those things come up, he's sitting there hawking it, and he'd comment once in a while, but then later on, I said, "Hey, Jim, why the hell didn't you eject?" He said, "Hey, I'm just following your lead, man."
I don't want to go in the dry suit either, man.
Yeah, and he said, if I'd ejected, you'd have a lot of wind coming through this cockpit, and I don't want you uncomfortable.
Oh my God!
What a great guy.
What about coming around on final? I mean,
Well, it was a straight in approach. It was nighttime.
Yeah,
and you fly a little bit faster at 21 units angle of attack. It's amazing. I remember those numbers, but single engine, and I think I trapped on the 4-wire, which was, of course, the last cross deck pennant. So I was pretty lucky, but we landed single engine, and we saved the jet. And
but how much gas at 3,600 pounds would you have for a go around, and how many more tries would you have?
Probably a couple.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and was there a tanker up there that you could tank off of if you needed it?
Yeah, there was a tanker up there. But Lord knows I didn't want to go up there and tank single engine. Lord knows.
Right.
No, I was committed. And not only that, I didn't need any additional weight. So we flew it, and we wanted to be on the ball with 3.6. And that's the way it worked out. So I guess when I look back at some of my challenges, that was probably the most immediate challenge. But, all those nights, especially night low levels, can be extremely challenging.
Yeah.
But a good crew with a good airplane, good maintenance support, there's no reason for not being successful, especially the way you're trained as a naval aviator, as you know. So, yeah it was pretty incredible.
That's a hell of a story, not ending up in the drink. You know that, right?
Of course.
Just incredible.
Yeah, I collected a few free beverages as a result of that.
Yeah, because I mean, what are the odds? I mean, most guys would have to eject on a really catastrophic failure, but
Sure.
I mean, the odds of losing an engine on the stroke are probably, I mean, you're part of a very small club.
Yeah,
and,
I've seen I've seen that happen to some other people, and they ejected every time. And fortunately, they're still around as far as I know, but that decision got to be instant. And and I hesitated. In this case, I guess I was lucky.
Yeah.
But of course, all that preparation, all that training, having your mindset to when you go off, you're only looking at 2 or 3 bits of information. Airspeed coming off the catapult. You're looking at your angle of attack as you rotate. Obviously, you're looking at your VSI indicator, altimeter, and that's where your whole scan is focused, and you're doing that probably in less than a second.
Yeah.
And so, when that happened, I'm thinking I'm right there. In retrospect, I probably should have ejected, but again, I didn't have any additional paperwork. I got a few free cocktails out of it, and
you're a legend. You're a legend.
Yeah, and I was a pro of the week. What the heck?
All right, so the Rolex story. That's why I posted the picture for the show. Tell about the Rolex.
It's definitely a good one. So, my mom gave me the Rolex in May of '71 when I earned my wings, and I wore it all the time. And my background was pretty humble, and I'm not sure my mom even knew how to spell Rolex, but apparently she did some research, and I'm sure my sister probably helped her. But so God bless her, she gave me this incredible gift when I earned my wings, and I wore it all the time. And people would ask me, and of course Navy would issue you a combat watch, but I wore it all the time. And I said, yeah, this is my jam watch. If I ever get in the jam and I need some money, I can turn this quickly into some bail bond money or whatever.
Yeah,
made
right.
a joke out of it. So I'm wearing it all the time. And I loved it because, I love my mom, and obviously it was quite an accomplishment that she recognized and others. So it's pretty doggone special. And I know your dad, mom gave you one as well, so you can appreciate this.
Right.
And so anyway, I'm wearing this Rolex on the night of that catapult shot off Coral Sea. And as I'm going down the stroke and the launch bar fails and the engine blows up and the engine or the airplane yaws violently to the right, my arm, which is in my hand, of course, are attached with this death grip on the catapult grip. And so it slams into the side of the cockpit. And the way time slows down in some cases, I actually felt the bracelet loosen up and come unhitched or unhooked and fall down on my wrist. I actually felt that. And I thought, here I'm going down the catapult and I'm thinking, damn, my Rolex. and I'm about to lose eject and get wet,
Yeah.
Anyway, so my watch is hanging down like this. Let's see if I get it on the screen here. There you go. Yep. And so when I go into maintenance control, I said, my maintenance chief said, Chief, you need to vacuum out that throttle quadrant because I'm sure I got some foreign object damage in the throttle quadrant because the top of my Rolex is gone. And yes, sir, we'll do that. And so he came in the ready room a few minutes after we had wrapped up our debrief, and he had a little plastic bag. And in this plastic bag was the bezel and the sweep hands and a couple of shards of glass from the crystal. It was in a plastic bag. And I thanked him for that. And so I put it in my safe on Coral Sea, and that was it. I figured, well, that's the end of the Rolex. And so I finished my tour as a commanding officer of Attack Squadron 55, and I went to London to be the executive assistant to the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of U.S. Naval Forces Europe, Vice Admiral Paul Ilg, who is an absolute hero and a fantastic leader and good guy. But he took me with him to be his EA. So I'm in London, and one morning, the first couple of weeks I was there, I was walking to 7 North Audley, which is where our headquarters was, right across from Grosvenor Square, right across from American Embassy then. And I just happened to look down a side street, and I saw this big green sign that had the Rolex trademark, and it said authorize repair. I went, oh my, wow, okay. So the next day, I took the Rolex from with the plastic bag with me, and I go by the repair shop at lunchtime.
Are you in uniform?
No, in those days we wanted to maintain a very low profile,
right?
Statute of Forces agreement, and so it was coat and tie. And so I walk into this shop, a small shop, and there's a little lady um, on the desk in front, and there were two gentlemen a little bit behind her at two workstations. And it's a taco. This is like a movie. These guys are in there. They got these little eye shades on. They're wearing these glasses with about 15 different lenses, and they got a little spotlight, and they're working on their Rolexes, right?
Right.
And I had called to make sure that I could come by around lunchtime and see if I could drop off my Rolex to be hopefully repaired. And so when I went in, I said, hello, I'm Commander Suggs from across the street. I've got my Rolex here, and I'd like to take a look at it and see if there's any opportunity maybe to repair it or maybe not. And she said, just a second. So she called the two repair people behind her, and they all came up to the little counter, and they're like little puppy dogs looking at me. And I pull out the Rolex out of the plastic bag, and they go, oh my, what happened to your Rolex? And I gave them the story, the significance, how important it was, and it still was to me. I explained what happened that night with the catapult shot off the Coral Sea, and they're just sitting there just listening to hear a pin drop, And I said, I'm not sure if you can do anything. I'm not sure how much damage inside that oyster case may have occurred. Maybe you can't do anything. And if that's the case, that's fine. At least we'll know. But if you can do anything with it, boy, I would be so grateful. That'd be great. And they go, well, let us take a look at it. And if the oyster case is still intact, everything inside is okay, we can clean it, overhaul it. We can replace everything that was taken off during that experience you had. We can replace all of that, and new bezel, crystal, sweep pans, and all that. But let's see how the inside of the watch fared. So about a week later, Taco, I get this call from this little lady, Commander Suggs. Yes, ma'am. Your watch is ready for pickup. I went, are you kidding? And she said, no, it's ready. I said, were you able to fix it or repair it or replace anything? She said, it's almost as good as new. It's been certified chronometer again. And except for a couple of scratches, which you'll be able to see on the bracelet, nobody else will probably even notice that. It's ready for pickup. I went, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. This is too good to be true. So I reach in my desk and I pull out my pound sterling checkbook. And I go, gosh, I hope I have enough money in this account to pay for this, because this is not going to be cheap, but it'd be worth it. So at lunchtime, I go over to the little repair shop and I walk in the door, and the little lady looks at the back with the two gentlemen back there with the multi lenses and the lights and all that stuff and goes, he's here. He's here. So they come over, and one of them puts this green box on the top of the counter, and they go, open it up. So I open it up, and sure enough, it looks like it's brand spanking new. And the little brown tag is on it. It says, official chronometer or whatever. And I went, that's my watch? And they said, yeah, that's your watch. They just said, take it out. So I took it out of the box. They said, see, over here on the side, you'll see a few little scratches that we did our best to buff out, but you'll be able to tell it, but nobody else will. And so I went, gosh, I cannot thank you guys enough. This is fantastic. So how much do I owe you? And I pulled out my checkbook, and they go, you don't owe us anything.
Wow.
But I said, no. I said, you have no idea what this is worth to me. And whatever the cost is, I'm more than happy to pay that. I mean, it took some time to do this, and you had to bring in new components to rebuild it. I want to take care of that. And they said, no, you don't owe us anything. And then the lady said, Commander Suggs, if it wasn't for you and your parents, we'd be speaking German right now.
Wow.
You don't owe us anything. And I said, oh, how about this? Let me at least take you to lunch. And they looked at each other and smiled, and they go, well, how about dinner and drinks instead? I go, you know what? That's a better idea anyhow. So I said, how about this? There's a really nice French restaurant over in Shepherd's Market area there in just off of Hyde Park. I said, why don't I meet you there this coming Friday, if that's convenient for you? Let's say around 6:30, and we'll enjoy a couple of beverages, and then we'll enjoy a really nice French dinner. They go, what a great idea. We'll be there. So I get there about 6:25 or so, and they're already there. And they've already finished at least a half a bottle of beef eaters.
Oh,
I mean, they're like 3 sheets to the wind.
yeah.
And we're talking about me and that Rolex watch to anybody who would listen. So I sat down and I said, how long have you been here? And they go, oh, we got off a little bit early, maybe 45 minutes or so. We, just waiting for you. No problem at all. And so we had a wonderful, wonderful dinner. I don't know if there's any beef eaters left behind that bar when they left. But I poured them in the cab and sent them home. And I got to see him a couple more times. And then when I left, Admiral Ilg invited him to my promotion to captain ceremony and later on my farewell. They were there, and I recognized them, and I thanked them every time I saw them.
You know what? You probably would have been cheaper to just pay for the repair.
You know what? I probably could have bought a new Rolex for what it cost.
But you know what's sentimental?
It was well worth it. It was worth it, and it's been keeping great time ever since, and now, of course, sharing this story with you and your friends and viewers, it probably has even more significance now. It's cool.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So you go from the UK. You're a captain now, and you do your deepwater draft.
Yes.
Which is cool because you were on the USS San Diego, which was my dad's ship back in the mid 70s.
Yeah. I wanted if I had the opportunity, and obviously I'd been extremely fortunate. We had a great squadron, TAC Squadron 55, and I was, at the top of the fitness report ranking, those kind of things, thanks to some really great people in my squadron. But while I was there, I also got all my underway quals, conning alongside, command duty officer, that kind of stuff. So I spent a lot of time up on the bridge after night flight ops, getting those qualifications, so that when the board looked at my record, they would see that I had everything in place to be considered for a deep draft. Because, as you know, you don't go straight to an aircraft carrier from a squadron. It's quite a process that involves commanding a deep draft supplier, as you understand, an amphibious ship. So I got selected to command a deep draft. So I went to Naval War College for the Sizemore program, and I through some coaching by Admiral Ilg and some others, I got my choice of ships. So I selected an AFS USS San Diego, which was a supply ship, because I'd have the opportunity to do a lot of steaming, a lot of underway replenishment, in and out of a lot of ports, a lot of ship handling, a couple deployments. So I figured that would be great experience. Hopefully one day, if I ever was lucky enough to get command of a carrier, really put me in good shape. So I took command of USS San Diego, AFS 6. So I was the grocery store of the 6th Fleet.
And Petro.
Yeah, we had some fuel, but our combat stores was what we did. So we had the equivalent of 22 railroad cars of fresh fruit and vegetables and frozen goods that we would pull up alongside a destroyer or carrier, and we would feed them for, provide enough food for at least maybe several weeks, maybe a month or so. So every day we were working with the fleet, 6th Fleet, to bring those supplies on board so we could feed those crews. And I had a great crew on San Diego, and I was able to select several of the key people to help me command that ship. We made 2 deployments. We got the battle lead 2 years in a row. My ranking was really good, and I learned a lot and got a lot of ship handling experience. But the first person I hired was the guy that was my chief engineer, like your father was chief engineer at USS San Diego a few years before I got there. And so, it's like when you've got a maintenance department that really excels, there's no excuse for you as a naval aviator or a marine aviator to not do a really super job when you got that kind of support. So uh, Mike Barrett was the first person I hired. And then later on with America, my chief engineer, Leo Owens, was the first person I hired. So you had to get that piece right. So I learned a lot about engineering, a lot of ship handling. And so on the way back from our second deployment to Sixth Fleet, I got a P4 or personal message from the Commodore, the 1-star in Norfolk, telling me that I had been selected to command an aircraft carrier, and I was one of 3, and I needed to call the number he provided to the captain detailer to be the first person to select from 3 options, and then number 2 and number 3 person would select. And so at 8 o'clock DC time, I called, and he congratulated me and said, okay, we've got 3 ships here, America, Kitty Hawk, and John F. Kennedy.
Right.
I said, okay, all conventionally powered. And I said, okay, do you have the deployment schedules in front of you? And he said, I do. I said, which one is going to be deployed the most? At sea the most. So that's pretty easy. That's USS America. I go, okay. I got one more question for you. What's America's? I'd never flown off of America. I said, what's America's call sign? He says, courage. I said, sign me up. So I took command of America. What an experience.
All right. So San Diego, though, what the stories about your the Padre, or you had the chickens and
Oh yeah. Well, as you know, the work we did was extremely serious, hard, challenging in many cases, but there's always a place for humor.
right?
Life's a blend, and you got to look for those opportunities. So, USS San Diego, of course, was named for the city, San Diego. And if you're looking at your photo here, you can see the bridge there, and on either side of the ship, there's a big bridge wing where the captain and a couple of the crew will be there and they will be there the whole time while the ship is alongside, taking on its stores or whatever they may need. And then you're on a phone line back and forth talking to the captain of the other ship. Right. But anyway, so I went, USS San Diego. Well, they got a ball team. They play pretty good baseball, and they got the San Diego Chicken. Well, that's cool. But I was one of the first ships in the Navy that had men and women sailors on board. In those days, women could not serve on a, quote, combat ship.
Right.
But as a supply ship, they were allowed to do that. And also, they weren't allowed to fly in, quote, combat aircraft, but they could fly helicopters, logistic airplanes. So I had 12 female chief petty officers, and I had H-46 detachments from HC-8 and 6 pilots, and 2 of them were females from Naval Academy who were outstanding aviators. In fact, they went on test pilot school when they finished their time in the squadron. But so I said, okay, we got a male, a rooster chicken here. Let's get us a hen. Let's get us a female chicken. So I had 2 costumes of a male chicken, a rooster, and a female chicken, a hen, right?
Right.
And they were all dressed up from head to toe. And we'd be there on the bridge wing watching the carrier come alongside to get in position to take on the stores. And the 2 chickens would be standing there next to me. And then once the carrier got in position, they would hold up these placards graded from 1 to 10, and they would grade the captain of the carrier on his approach to his supply ship. We would grade their approach. So these 2 chickens would hold up these placards. And at the same time, Taco, I had some sailors that had a pretty good, actually really good garage band. And they played a lot of rock and roll country, Southern rock. And they'd be up on the forecastle and they'd be playing Sweet Home Alabama or something, some Rolling Stones song, up on the forecastle at 3 o'clock in the morning, pitching deck, raining. and they'd be up there playing on the forecastle, and I'd be standing there on the bridge wing with my 2 chickens, getting ready, getting ready to grade the approach by the oncoming carrier. And it just made it fun, it made it fun. And
those guys are sitting up there with their binoculars watching you. Now, did you fly with any
rooster cone and their beaks, looking like big old fat chickens.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was fun. And the thing is, I'm there, with my uniform on and my San Diego ball cap, doing my best not to crack a smile, trying to be as serious as I could be. And in the meantime, I'm about to pee in my pants laughing so hard.
Nobody else ever did that, right? So it made it fun.
And the thing is, when I took command of San Diego, of course, our combat suit, is supplies. And so, my supply department were a bunch of overachievers. Yeah. My supply officer, usually a commander or captain, I had 2 of them. They were both fantastic. And so I told him, I said, listen, before we go on deployment, I want you to go to Domino's, and I want you to buy as many Domino pizza boxes as you can. Okay? Never been opened or never been put together. I want you to stock up on those boxes. And I want you to buy cases after cases of O'Doul's beer. And I want you to put it in one of the refrigerated compartments we have here. So when we go alongside that carrier, the first thing I want to send over will be San Diego pizzas and Domino boxes and several cases of cool O'Doul's beer with instructions to send to every one of the 9 ready rooms. And that's the first thing that went over.
That's cool. Now, did you send one up to the C-suite, to the captain?
Yeah, well, the captain got the first. He got a pizza and a 6-pack right off the bat.
I was going to say, you got to take care of the old man up.
Yeah, you do.
Carrier, right?
And the thing, and the crew loved it. I loved it. We had fun, and the results paid off. The crew just
what was your ranking as a deep water draft captain?
I was 1.
I love it.
1 of 26.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
But it's it's a serious business, and there are opportunities to have a little bit of humor sometimes, and enjoy it, because one of the most important qualities in a leader, I think, is a sense of humor, keeping everything in perspective. Meanwhile, making sure that the mission is all important, but not taking yourself too seriously all the time. So,
it's funny, Vinny? I was on a Tiger cruise with my dad.
Sure.
And we were out there off the coast of Virginia, going up and down on the San Diego. And the captain let me sit in his chair, which I didn't realize the significance of this. But the captain's like, yeah, go ahead, kid, sit in my chair, Mitchell.
Yeah, that's big time.
And so I'm sitting in the captain's chair. And then he comes up and he hands me a set of binoculars. He goes, I've got a job for you. I said, what's that? And he goes, come with me. So we go over to the bridge, and he goes, I want you to sit here, and we're going to do an in-transit mail buoy pickup. So we're going to pick up mail. They drop mail off on these buoys, and we got to look for it, and we don't know if it's been put out there yet. So your job, if you're willing to take this, is to look for the mail buoy. And a lot of guys will be happy because they'll get mail from their dads and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm all in. I've got the binoculars, and I sat there, and Dad's like, hey, we're going down to go get something to eat, get some ice cream. No, Dad, I'm good. I'm looking for the mail buoy. Cap wants me to find the mail buoy. No, of course, there's no such thing. No mail buoy.
There you are, hook, line, and sinker. I love it.
Oh, that guy had this 10-year-old kid. Like,
don't they were laughing like crazy.
Yeah. Look at Lieutenant Commander Bell's son over there, man. He's into this.
Yeah, the Pelicans have dropped it off for you.
So I have a very, very much affection for both the San Diego and the USS America, because I don't know if I told you, but my uncle was a Rio with the Puke and Dogs era in Oceania.
Oh, yeah.
In the 70s. And he did his first med cruise on the America in 75 or 76.
Okay.
I think. And so he was on the America, and they did the med cruise. But I've got a picture of that fine ship right there. Look at that gorgeous beast.
CV-66. Yeah.
Now, what was it? What
Country's
was it like?
flagship.
What was it like commanding? Were you were a captain or a rear admiral at this
No,
time?
I was a captain, and I had gone straight. I had gone straight after my change of command on USS San Diego. I went back to Newport um, for a little bit of refresher training. Got some time in a simulator, um, with the modeling of an aircraft carrier and working with tugboats, those kinds of things. They do, and they do a super job up in Newport for sure. And
Oh,
then I came back yeah, and then I came
oh,
back.
question, real quick.
Yeah,
Little Creek Amphibious Base, back by the officers' pool beach. They used to have these ships, small ships that a single person could sit in, and you would drive the ship. And they had aircraft carriers and cruisers and
yeah,
stuff like that. These were big. They're
yeah.
like 20 feet long. Did you ever do that?
No, I never got a chance to do that. I went through training at Newport. I got to use a simulator, and then when I came back to Norfolk, I checked into Single Lamp Fleet, and I got to spend some time on the waterfront
Hmm.
with the tugboats. That's what I wanted to do, and also I got to ride USS Savannah with a good friend of mine who was a captain at the time, and so I got a little experience that way. But when you walk aboard that ship with the AFS in San Diego's case, you are the guy. You are the captain. You are the guy,
Yeah.
and they're all looking toward you for leadership. And so, I'd had a lot of opportunity to get prepared for that. Obviously, getting all those qualifications with the help of the captain of the Coral Sea was a big help. And so when I walked on San Diego, I felt pretty comfortable. I
Mm.
was prepared, and I knew that we could do the mission. And but boy, I sure learned a lot. I learned
Yeah.
a lot, especially in engineering, supply, those kinds of things, and just working with some incredible people. My chaplain at the time, Margaret Kibben, was another superstar, and she went on to be chief of chaplains for the United States Navy. So
Wow.
I had some really quality people, and many of them were females on their first experience on board a ship. So yeah, it was just terrific. So when I walk aboard America, I'm ready. I'm definitely
Yeah.
ready. And en route, I went through the F-14 RAG and got NATOPS qualified in the F-14 Tomcat, and then later on I flew with Fighter Squadron 102 out of Oceana during the
Oh,
early.
did you ever know Leakster? Jerry Leakey? Ring a
Well, that
bell?
name's familiar. Yeah, I don't think I
Leakster.
did, but I remember. I think I remember that name.
Well, actually, he was Diamondback. So which one? Diamondback.
That was VF 102.
Oh, okay, he was a
Oh,
Diamondback in first Gulf War. So that
okay.
was 91, 92 time
Yeah,
frame.
he would. Yeah, he would have been there before I got there. Yeah.
Okay. So what was it like commanding the USS America?
Wow, we could spend all day, rest of the week talking about that. It was definitely an incredible opportunity. I was blessed to be part of it. It was at the time almost all the other 11 captains on the other 11 aircraft carriers were all Naval Academy graduates, and I got a new call sign when I was captain of the America as an NC State grad. They called me, quote, the walk on.
No ring knocking here, baby.
And they would ask me, how the hell did you get here? You didn't go to Naval Academy. How did you get here? I said, hey, because I'm really good. So I could talk forever about America, but I would like to share this with you and your friends and your viewers here. But it was an incredible opportunity. I relieved Captain Winston Copeland, Mick Killer, call sign Mad Dog, great guy. I relieved him. I had gotten my qual, my F-14 A and B qual with the F-14 RAG, and I was flying with VF-102. So I took command of America, and I'll try to make this really short. But the first time that we attempted to light off the boilers to go out and do some fleet carrier quals for the training command and the fleet squadrons, we blew up number 2 Bravo boiler. And a
Oh,
lot of reasons for that. Most of it was environmental, and that's what the JAG investigation revealed. Because I won't go through all the weather and all that good stuff, but it couldn't have been avoided. Long story short, but the long and the short of it is, I'd been there maybe 10 days or so, and we blew up 2 Bravo boiler. So now the ship was scheduled to make one more deployment, just one.
oh,
And so now the question arises: what do we do with America? She was due to do that 10-day at sea period and go into the yards for a short availability, just for some updates and some quick fixes, just to get her in shape to make that last deployment, because she'd been rode hard and for quite a while. She was ready to go to the boneyard, pretty much.
yeah.
But so we blew it up, and luckily nobody was seriously hurt, and that was a miracle, no question, a miracle. Now the question becomes: you're all going to make one more deployment with America. Is she worth the investment to do that? And of course, after 10 years or so in the corporate world, that's a business decision that would have been easy for me to make. No, it wouldn't be worth putting that additional resource into it just for one more
Because
deployment.
how do you replace a boiler that is down in the engine room? You have to cut a hole in some of the decks.
No, what happened, Taco, was a cold front had come through Norfolk. High barometric pressure, lots of wind, cold, and we didn't have forced draft blowers, and so we attempted to light off 2 Bravo boiler, and then so and that was occurring, and then the gases were going up into the stacks, and later on out the top, out into the environment. As that process continued, and it takes a while to bring it up and online, a lot of those gases collected in that plumbing, if you will, and then later on a spark ignited all that, and so we had literally a Molotov cocktail up in the island, and that's where we blew out a lot of the piping and all the systems that remove all that smoke and stuff out to the atmosphere, and also the explosion went back down into the boiler and did a bunch of damage to the boiler as well. But the boiler itself was still intact, the casing and all that.
Oh, okay.
But it was several $1 million of damage.
Wow.
And of course, I put the ship at general quarters. The crew did a great job. Unfortunately, we made the 6 o'clock news, and so now the decision is going to be: do we keep America around? And I won't go into all of it, because I could write a book about it. In fact, I might. But after a lot of lobbying, begging, pleading, whatever, and the Air Land commander at the time was Vice Admiral Sweet P. Allen, who had commanded America and was an incredible leader and a great person. I tried to push every emotional button I could. I said, "Come on, Admiral, this is America. Her call sign is courage. She can't go out of the fleet with her tail between her legs. She's got to go out as a proud warship, out of respect for all those people that worked so hard and sacrificed, including their families, with America."
Yeah.
And so I played that card as hard as I could. And Admiral Borda was CNO at the time, and he made the decision: okay, we're going to keep America online.
Wow.
Keep America online. And so Admiral Allen said, okay, we're going to put the additional resources in place, but your schedule is going to stay the same. Things that were not happening, a lot of things were happening over in the Adriatic, Bosnia, and Kosovo that were not good. And so America had a mission. It was pretty obvious that would probably occur. And without going into a lot of detail, I told Admiral Allen, I said, "Well, I cannot thank you enough for the support, but there's something else that I need too." He said, "What's that?" And I said, "This crew has been rode hard. They're tired, and now their morale has really suffered. And I'm not sure that they're up for this challenge." And I said, I've got to fix this crew before we can fix this ship." He said, I would agree with that. What do you want to do? I said, I know this is really a little different to say the least, but when you leave, I want to go down to the wardroom and I want to invite all the officers and the chiefs and talk about this incredible opportunity that we have and also what's going to be required. A lot of hard work and sacrifice, even more than what they initially expected. And I want to tell them that I need everything they've got. And I told them, I said, if you want to run, like my granddad said, if you want to run with the big dogs, you better get your ass off the porch. Mm. And I told them, I said, we're going to go home this weekend. We're going to stand down to the duty section. We're going to come back on Monday. We're going to be 2 days behind schedule. But I want you to decide this weekend with your families, you want to stay or you want to leave. Because if you want to leave, you will leave with whatever performance report that you've earned. If there's any end of tour awards, you get that. And Admiral Allen will probably not be able to replace you. So it'll probably mean the end of America. Because that's what Admiral Allen told me. He said, and I said, Admiral, I want you to support me with this. Because if we don't get this piece right, you can forget all the additional resources for America. And he goes, wow. We've never had a request like that. And I said, we've never been in this position either. Remember?
Wow.
Her name's America and her call sign is Courage. And he said, well, how about if a bunch of them take you up on that offer to transfer off America? I go, well, I probably would like for that to happen in a few cases. But if that does happen, we won't be able to get underway. And all those people that supported decommissioning America and saving a lot of money can get their wish. And he says, wow, how many do you think will leave? And I said, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I can let you know Monday morning. He says, okay, what happens to you if that happens? So I pulled out a folder and I handed it to him. It was my letter of resignation.
Wow.
Admiral Allen, I said, if that happens, here's my letter of resignation and asking for retirement. And I said, it's already signed. It hasn't been serialized or dated. Your staff can do that. And I said, you won't need to call me over to Building T-26 on the naval base to fire me and embarrass both of us. So we'll take care of that right now. And he looked at me and he says, you willing to do that? And I said, I have to do that.
Wow.
So he goes into my my galley and he thanks my cook, who was an outstanding young chef from Philadelphia. He thanked him for a nice lunch, and he came out and put his 4.5 cover on, and he looked at me and he says, as he's got his hand on the doorknob to my cabin, he says, all right, Captain Suggs, you're getting everything you asked for, but you better effing fix her. I said, aye, sir, I'll fix her. So we break down to the duty section that weekend. We come back on Monday morning. We're 2 days behind schedule. And we took our muster report at 0700. At 7:30, I called Admiral Allen to say we got 100% on board.
Yes. Awesome.
Nobody's leaving. He goes, okay, now you got to fix her. I said, we'll fix her. So we go into the yards. We do all the work that we had to do, and now we do all the additional work to fix that number 2 Bravo boiler and all the associated equipment. And the JAG investigation came out and said, hey, Navy, you got to put those 4-strap blowers in the boiler engine rooms so that this doesn't occur again, because other captains had asked for that before, but the Navy wouldn't spend the money on an older ship like that. So that happened. We got 4-strap blowers in their engine rooms, and we brought the ship out on time after going through a light-off exam, which was incredibly difficult. But I had a chief engineer and some wonderful people that performed miracles, and we came out right on time. We painted the ship top to bottom, fore and aft, she looked like a brand new 55 Chevy coming out of a garage.
Right.
And I put the engineers up on the bow in their brand new coveralls. Everybody else was manning the rails in their whites. And I told Captain or Admiral Taylor from the shipyard, I said, "Now, Admiral Taylor, I can't thank you and your team here enough for all the support. So I'm going to be playing." I always played music on the ships I had. And I said, when we come out of the slip, I'm going to be playing some music. So don't take this personal. Okay. And he said, "Okay, well, thanks for the heads up." So we lit off. Everything went according to plan. Monday morning at the 0700 high tide, I had 12 tugboats waiting to make up with America, and we came out of the slip, Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and went down the Elizabeth River, right down by Town Point Park. And on the 1MC I played, the Animals, we got to get the hell out of this place.
Oh, Benny, that is so awesome.
So we came right down by Town Point Park there in Norfolk. A bunch of our families were out there waving flags and everything. And America looked like she was brand spanking new. These sailors all looked like they came out of a recruiting poster, lining the rails on either side of the ship. And as soon as we got down the Elizabeth River there, I said, let's free all the tugboats. We're underway. America's back.
Wow. So
all the 12 tugboats took in their lines, and America's on our own power. And we go down the Elizabeth River, and we go out to Chesapeake Bay. And as we're coming down by Pier 12, the carrier pier there in Norfolk Naval Station, and there's no ships there. But as we come down by Pier 12, I looked over at the end of the pier, and there's this little guy with the red hair, about 5'6", 140 pounds. Call sign Sweet Pea. He shaved, but he didn't have to. But he made a Tilda Hunt look like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He's a guy you didn't want to tangle with. He was at the end of that pier, and behind him was this white sedan and his driver. That was the only thing on the pier. And as we went by Pier 12, the carrier pier, we rendered honors to the Admiral.
That's cool.
And we ran up the flags that said, "Thank you, Admiral."
That's cool.
And then we go down the Elizabeth River, out through the Chesapeake Bay. We went through the Deepwater Channel, turned into the wind, and we had F-14s at the ramp. And for the next 2 to 3 days, we flew around the clock, didn't miss a beat. And we did all the other exercises that we needed to do as we're beginning our workups. And we came back, and I sent a message to my battle group commander and Admiral Allen and Admiral Board. It said, "She's back."
Oh my God! Is this Admiral Sweet Pea's airplane?
Yeah, I was his senior CAG LSO, and the deal that I made with him when I left VA 42 to be the senior LSO on Air Wing 6 on Independence was, I said, I want to go through the F4, and I want to get the whole program with the A7 Corsair too. So for the next 2 years, I flew A6, A7s, F4s. I flew a lot with Attack Squadron 15. And that was one of the A7Es that I flew when I was a CAG LSO.
Yeah.
And but anyway, so America leaves, and we go to the Adriatic at 35 knots the whole way, and leaving any doubt behind that this baby wasn't ready to go to combat.
Yeah. So
we arrived on station, ready on arrival, and we flew strikes around the clock for several weeks. And that was the first time, I'm pretty sure that was the first time that we had ever used standoff weapons. And I got extended. In my tour, and Admiral Allen, Admiral Board said, "Hey, we are not going to relieve Benny at this point. We're going to leave him there until there's a ceasefire." And so when a ceasefire occurred, I got the message, "You can come home now." And so America came home, and about halfway across the Atlantic, I got a message from Admiral Allen that said, "Congratulations, America just earned the Battle E as the #1 carrier on the East Coast.
Wow.
And then a little bit out of Norfolk, another personal message arrived from the Commander-in-Chief of the Atlantic Fleet, a 4-star. It said, "Congratulations, America just earned the Battenberg Cup, the best ship in Atlantic Fleet."
Wow.
So these other 11 captains of carriers are obviously really great people, great leaders, great men, just great people. Within about a couple of weeks, Taco, I had a card or a letter or a P4 message or something from every single one of them congratulating America and Air Wing 1.
That's
and
cool.
And I when I got the 11th one sitting on my desk, I asked the ship's secretary, who I brought with me, Tony Jones, another superstar. I said, "Hey, Tony, can you bring me my calligraphy pen and my stationery?" "Yes, sir." I said, "I want to write a note back to every one of these captains." "Yes, sir. No problem." In a few minutes, he brings me in my stationery, with a command pen at the top. And my calligraphy pen, I wrote pretty well in those days. And I wrote a letter back to each one of them saying, essentially, "Dear Captain Taco, thank you so much for taking the time to send your thoughts and your congratulations to my crew and my air wing. I really appreciate that. I know how busy you are. I didn't think you'd mind. I published your note in our plan of the day so every aviator, every sailor can see what you thought about their performance. I was just lucky enough to sail with them. I didn't think you'd mind. So thank you again for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Good luck to you and USS George Washington or whatever ship."
Mm-hmm.
Very respectfully, R.E. Benny Suggs, Captain, United States Navy. P.S. Not bad for a walk-on from NC State.
I love it. I love it.
And you can't make this stuff up. This is all true.
Do you ever see those guys later on?
Oh, every once in a while at a reunion or something, I bump into people, and of course, as you know, it's like one of us just went to the head. We're back after 20 years. It's like nothing ever happened. Time is just right there, except losing a little bit of hair along the way.
Look at this shag you're sporting
right
there.
I needed a little bit of a haircut. I wish I had some of the hair back, to be honest with you. I flew with VA-15, VA-87. A couple great light attack squadrons. Really, really good people.
Well, you know what? I'd like to have a part 2, and then we can talk about some of your experiences flying F4, F-14,
sure.
A7. Some of the things to think about for the next show.
Yeah, it's a real quick thing. Skipper Barbary, call sign Pirate, was a skipper of VF-102 Diamondbacks, and he crewed me up. And this kind of goes back to some of our initial conversation about crewing up experience, and talent, etc. But he crewed me up with a guy, Lieutenant Commander call sign Genghis Khan. And I didn't know for a long time what his real name was, Mike. And I'd be in the officers club or whatever, and guys would go, "Hey, how you like flying that Tomcat?" And I go, "Hey, I love it." And I'm flying with an incredible aviator, Genghis Khan. "Well, why is he so good? Because he was a Top Gun instructor?" I said, "Well, I'm sure that's part of it, but he's really good at what he does, and he's absolutely fearless because he flies with me."
Yeah. Genghis Khan, I love it.
Yeah, but if you want to do a part 2 sometime, that'd be great. And
I do.
We can continue some of these tall tales from the cockpit. And as you know, I was extremely fortunate. I spent 10 and a half years at Harley-Davidson Motor Company as one of the members of their senior leadership group. And then later on, I was the first hire by Chancellor Randy Woodson. I was an associate vice chancellor at NC State for 10 years until I just retired this last year. So I got stories from the road as well.
Oh God, yeah. Let's have a part 2.
Okay.
Part 3, maybe a part 4.
Whatever. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Brought back a lot of memories, and You probably can't tell here, but I got tears in my eyes from laughing so hard and thinking about all those wonderful people and the experiences
Let's
that we shared together.
You know what? That's what I love about just doing the podcast and talking to folks. You have had experiences and cool stuff that the average person will never
Yeah,
experience in their lives. And for that, I appreciate you coming on the show.
I appreciate it.
Keeping it real.
In my opinion, leadership starts with vision and is fueled by passion.
Well, you know what? Do you have a leadership book that you've written?
I've been encouraged to do that, and in fact, I've had Bantam Books and um, another publisher reach out to me that want to talk about a project of a book, and
Yeah.
I'm considering that. Yep, 4 books. I'm considering that because I think there's
Great.
some. I've been so fortunate to learn a lot of lessons along the way, and
Yeah.
had experience to work with some incredible people that have made such a difference in my life and others as well. I'd certainly like to recognize them. So I'm thinking
What
about
what
it.
is what real quick? What is your leadership book that you give to people like young aspiring officers or um, management and senior leaders that you've
Yeah,
met? What do you recommend if somebody asks you, "Hey, Benny, what's on your bookshelf behind you?" And
yeah.
what do you recommend as
That's
a
a
great
very good
leadership book?
question. And like most of us, I do have a couple of books.
What do you
One,
tell people? Yeah.
yeah, one that I took on several deployments um, through my command tour of Attack Squadron 55 was called The Heart of a Man. And I found this book when I'm still at NC State as a student. And this lady was married to a Carolina graduate uh, who was in an A4 squadron
Mhm.
and flying off the carrier and flying strikes into Vietnam. And unfortunately, he was lost. But she put together this book with excerpts from his letters. And when I first opened that book up, I was home for the weekend in Wilmington, and I went to Belk's in their book section, and I sat there on the floor and I read almost that entire book.
Wow.
Yeah, it is really, really good. And it's called The Heart of a Man, I'm pretty sure.
I'm gonna
And
look for that.
when I left, I was the operations officer for the Atlantic Fleet. My first 1-star job before I took command of Carrier Group 6. I gave that book to one of my young commanders who'd been selected to command an F-14 squadron. I gave it to him. Uh, the other one is a little different.
Uh-huh.
Written by Richard Bach, and he wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Hmm.
He's written he's written several books, and they all have an aviation theme.
Right.
And this one is a little different, and it's called Illusions, and it's called The Story of a Reluctant Messiah.
I love that one.
Have you
Because
read
he
that?
flew a 19 see, I owned a 1929 Fleet 2
Yeah,
biplane.
he was a
He
barnstormer.
and he also owned in the book he flew a fleet,
Yeah,
and the fleet never leaked oil, never spewed
yeah.
the oil on you or anything. And oh yeah, I love that book.
You know,
Illusions is fantastic.
yeah, and I lifted one of the quotes out of the book, and I've given that book to several people, especially people going into command or into a senior corporate position or higher education or whatever. And I lift that one passage that he talks about the link that bonds one's true family.
Yeah.
And when I had my going away with Chancellor Woodson at NC State, I quoted that, and I said. He talks about the link that bonds one true family. He said, certainly blood, family members, all that's extremely important, no doubt about it. But he also goes on to say the link that bonds one's true family is one of love, joy, and respect in each other's lives.
Right.
That says it
Right.
all. That says it all.
It does.
Think when you look back on 12 deployments for me in 30 years in the Navy, um, his link about one's true family kind of sums up my relationships and my respect for the people that made it possible.
Yeah, that well put, because that book encompasses it all. I mean, that's that's probably on the list of 10 for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I would agree.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is my
That's
number
a cool
one.
one too.
I give that. We
Yeah.
were on recruiting duty in the Marines. We had to read that, and I wish I had read that back in high school. And my biggest mistake is I gave it to my daughter, who's a senior at A&M, and she turns
Uh,
around and uses that, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa! Stop using the Jedi mind trick on me. I know where you got that. I know where you're where you're coming from. And she goes, well, you shouldn't give me the book to read, Dad. I'm like, well, that's
that's a
uh,
good one. That's a good
yeah.
one. Yeah.
She uses that a lot on me, unfortunately. But the other one I use, uh, I had a guy who went on to be a 3-star. He was a major. I was a young captain. I worked for him, John Whistler, and he was then Major Whistler, and he was the OPSO. I was the assistant OPSO for a group. And I'm working my butt off, and we have 2 squadrons below us, MWSS 171, 172 up in mainland Japan. We're down in Okinawa,
Okay.
and I'm working my butt off with my counterparts. And one
Sure.
day he calls me in the office. He goes, Taco, and he hands me this well-worn, Xeroxed, stapled thing, and he says, "Pull the staple out, make a copy of it, and then give me back mine." And I'm like, "Yes, sir," and read it, and then come back. So I do it, give him back. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm reading this, and it's called "Who's Got the Monkey?" And it was a Harvard Business Journal, 1975, I think.
Oh wow.
And I'm reading this, and I'm like, "Oh, oh." It basically they equate problems as monkeys, and monkeys have to be fed and nourished, and if not, they squawk or they poop on you or whatever. And all of a sudden, it clicked. I'm like, holy crap, because I'm trying to help. Hey Taco, I'm having an issue with this guy, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, I went to TBS with that guy. Hold on, let me call him up and see if I can smooth things over and help you out. Blah blah blah.
There you go.
Well, reading the article, that same scenario, that monkey just went from his shoulders to my shoulders. I'm no longer the upper level. I am now
Yeah.
subordinate to my guy.
Yeah. Sure.
And and then after that, I'm like, okay, hey, look, Bob, I appreciate that issue. Here's what I'm going to do. And I open up my little green lieutenant book. I go, I'm going to schedule you in for Tuesday, and by 1500, I need you to give me 3 COAs on how you're going to handle this issue,
There you
and
go.
then I'll pick which 3 of the COAs that we're going to go with. Okay, I'll see you 1500. Wait, wait. I'm like, goodbye. Click. And all of a sudden, my time management went from,
Yeah.
working long, long hours to
There you
be
go.
able to focus on what really needed to be done.
There you
And
go.
that in itself, I give it to every young officer that I've ever worked with. Um, you need this because you're going to be in positions of leadership, and you need
Yes.
to understand that you can't help everybody. You to develop as good officers or staff NCOs, you have to develop your guys and to be able to be creative and think on their feet and to do stuff.
Mhm.
So you're just helping them. It's more work back on them, because you may know the guy and you could make a phone call for the guy, or you may be working the deal, but now you're no longer the boss, you're the subordinate. So
Right on.
get out of that cycle, and that'll help you out. But
Yeah. For sure.
it's kind of funny. Hold on one second. Let me put you on solo here, and I want to look behind me. And as I look, I don't see illusions. Illusions must be up out in my hallway.
You may get
Um,
maybe you gave it to somebody.
nah, you know what? Illusions may be out in the thing. All right.
Okay.
So some of the books I have on my shelf that I read all the time: On the Beach, Inherit the Stars. That was a
Uh-huh.
fantastic one. Kind of dark. Last Babylon, which was incredible old one, of course. Tom Sawyer.
Uh-huh.
Can't live without the great Santini, Pat Conroy,
Oh my Lord. Yes.
and Bat 21. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yes, Bat 21 at the. This is kind of cool story, right? So he gets shot down in Vietnam, and it was the most expensive rescue. This is from Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton. It was the most expensive rescue that they've ever done. Um, you know, to rescue a guy. And at the end of the book, it said basically he lives with his wife Gwen in Tucson, Arizona, not far from a golf course, California, 1980, when the book was written. Parker read this book in high school and he gave it to me. We were in 10th grade. And
Wow.
so I get done with the book and I'm like, oh my God, this book is awesome. So I call information and I go Tucson, Arizona. And they go, name? And I'm like, I. Seal Hamilton, you know, um, Colonel I. Seal Hamilton. How do you spell that? And I'm like, Iceal Hamilton, Hamblen. Oh, yeah, here's his phone number.
Oh
So
my.
I get his phone number and I call this guy, cold call him. And I'm like, hello, Colonel Hamilton? Yes. Sir, you don't know me, but my name's Mitchell Bell. I'm a sophomore in high school. I just read your book, Bat 21, and I got to tell you, sir, you're my new hero.
Oh wow.
He's like, what? I'm like, you know,
Oh my.
your escape in Vietnam and getting away from the VC, that is the most incredible thing I've ever read in my life. And your perseverance and what you went through, you're like my new role model. And I just want to thank you. And I do have some questions for you, though, sir. Can you explain what grapefruit was? What this? And all of a sudden, he just starts talking, and he goes, Mitchell, what's your address? And so I give him my address, and we become pen pals. He writes me these letters, and sends me a picture of himself, autographed, and all these
Oh,
letters. And then he kept trying to get me to go to the Air Force Academy, and I'm like, nah, I really don't. Well, I know some guys; they owe me some favors. I'm like, I appreciate it, sir, but I want to join the Marines. And so I joined the Marines and I'm flying C-130s out at Cherry Point, and we had to go to Tucson to go pull some parts off old Hercs from the
oh
boneyard.
yeah, sure. Oh yeah.
And
It
so
was
I've
fun.
got my CO, my CO, my XO, OPSO, and a couple of the senior captains who were getting out, and they wanted to get their ATP. And we had a guy out there. That's another story. We had a guy out there that took them all up to get their ATPs. And that night they go, "What Taco? What are you doing?" I'm like, "Sir, I'm having dinner with Colonel Hamilton, the guy they made that movie about, Bat 21, at the O Club there in Tucson with him and his wife, Gwen. So if you guys want to join us, feel free to come over." And so
Wow.
they all do. They all go and they buy a copy of the book at the PX, and we go have dinner with Colonel Hamilton.
How cool is that?
And he told us all the behind the scenes stuff, and I wish he was alive to give an interview.
Oh man.
Really
Yeah,
great
what a
guy.
hero, as you said.
Yeah, he was incredible. But anyway, those are just some of the paperbacks that I have up there. And
Yeah.
then, of course, Ernie Gantz. You've got to read Ernie Gantz, Fate is the Hunter, Flying Circus. Oh my God, Limburg,
Mm-hmm.
The Pacific, Islands of the Damned, With the Old Breed, Iwo Jima, Goodbye Darkness,
Wow.
Chris Kyle. Shoot, I look through and I'll pick a book out and take it with me on the road. But I'm talking too much. Hey, it's been an hour and 44 minutes.
Oh my.
Sir, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. Let's have a part two and do
I
this
would
again.
enjoy that. That'd be a lot of fun.
You bet. You take care and listen. When I come to Raleigh, let's talk Parker into buying us lunch over at the Porsche Club.
Well, I'll tell you what, I live in North Myrtle Beach, but I go back to Raleigh for a couple of board meetings. In fact, I'll be there this Thursday and Friday. I serve on the board of directors for the College of Vet Med at NC State. So maybe we can couple up one of my board meetings with a
Yeah.
chance to go run up Parker's bar tab.
Yes. Make that old boy pay. He manages my money, so he's got to pay.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
well,
All
hey,
right.
listen, boss, you have a great one, and I look forward
I
to
will.
part two. Merry Christmas to you, and may you and your family have blessed holidays and a new year. All right.
All right. Thanks to you and your family and all your friends and viewers.
You
Happy
bet. You
holidays
take
and fly Navy.
Go Navy, beat Army. Damn it.
You got it on the 14th. Let's go Navy.
All right, sir. You take care. I'm going to play
All
this
right.
tonight. All right. Hoorah.
Here. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around, hanging out. Long session, loved it. Admiral Benny Suggs, you can find him on Wikipedia, I'm sure, all over the internet. Incredible, incredible fella. So thank you, sir, for joining us, and for everyone sitting there watching. Stand by for part 2. It's going to be great. Really enjoyed this. Until then, adios, hasta luego, sa wiedersehen, tschüss. Sheshini, au revoir, domarigato gozaimasu, no shinde kudasai. Ciao, Rivedishi, Tashikura, Assalamu alaikum, Mahala, Dovijanya, Das Vidanya. I think I got it all. And I'm going to go out with this one. See you guys.